Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today's Friday, January 18th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap last night's college basketball, NBA, NHL, and look ahead to tonight's slate. Go over the men's and women's Australian Open results and pick tonight's games that conclude the third round. MLB power rankings. I'm going to go through the Cowboys make a coaching change, and I'll do my NFL picks and my best bet of the day. All right, let's go to college basketball. So many interesting results from last night. Some surprises, some not so surprises, as there are each and every night in this sport. Old Dominion defeats Louisiana Tech 64-63. Old Dominion improves to 13-5. Louisiana Tech drops to 13-6. Siena defeats Niagara 66-57. Siena 7-11. Niagara's 8-10. Georgia Southern defeats Troy 90-82. Georgia Southern 11-7. Troy's 9-8. Northeastern defeats Charleston 69-60. Northeastern goes to 10-8. Charleston's 14-5. Hofstra defeats UNC Wilmington 87-72. Hofstra 16-3, UNC Wilmington 7-12. East Tennessee State defeats VMI 85-82. East Tennessee State 16-4, VMI is 6-12. Northern Kentucky defeats Cleveland State 91-76. Northern Kentucky 15-4. Cleveland State is 5-15. Drexel defeats Towson 72-66. Drexel 9-11. Towson 5-14. Canisius defeats Quinnipiac 65-63. Canisius 6-11, Quinnipiac 8-8. Tennessee State defeats Tennessee Tech 79-62, an impressive win for Tennessee State as they go to 5-12, and Tennessee Tech drops to 6-12. Monmouth defeats Fairfield 74-57. Monmouth playing a little better in MAAC play. They're 5-14. Fairfield is 5-13. Marshall defeats FAU 96-84. Marshall 11-6, FAU 11-7. Wright State defeats Youngstown State 80-74. Wright State 9-10. Youngstown State 6-14. Delaware defeats James Madison 76-69. Delaware 13-7. James Madison 9-10. Manhattan defeats St. Peter's 58-56. Manhattan 4-13. St. Peter's is 5-12. Southern Miss defeats Charlotte 63-60. Southern Miss 11-7. Charlotte's 4-12. Eastern Kentucky defeats Tennessee Martin 97-73. Eastern Kentucky is 8-10, and Tennessee Martin is 5-11. Samford defeats the Citadel 80-77. Samford 12-7. The Citadel 9-8. UNC Greensboro defeats Western Carolina 69-60. Greensboro 16-3. Western Carolina is 5-15. Middle Tennessee defeats UTSA 89-86. Middle Tennessee pulls off the upset. They're 4-14. UTSA is 10-8. Morehead State defeats Southeast Missouri State 73-69. Morehead 6-12. Southeast Missouri State is also 6-12. Number 6 Michigan State defeats Nebraska 70-64. A good win for Tom Izzo's team. They're 16-2. Nebraska's 13-5. Chattanooga defeats Mercer 73-70. Chattanooga 9-10. Mercer 6-12. Texas State defeats Little Rock 80-62. Texas State 15-3. Little Rock 7-11. Oral Roberts defeats South Dakota 77-74. Oral Roberts 8-13. South Dakota 8-10. Omaha defeats Western Illinois 80-71. Omaha 10-8. Western Illinois 6-13. FIU defeats Western Kentucky 77-76. FIU is 12-6. Western Kentucky 8-9. Texas Arlington defeats Arkansas State 68-59. Texas Arlington 7-11. Arkansas State is 8-10. Murray State defeats Eastern Illinois 83-61. A good win for Murray State. They are 14-2. Eastern Illinois is 10-8. And Ja Morant's draft stock keeps rising. Milwaukee defeats UIC 81-69. Milwaukee 8-11. UIC 9-10. Georgia State defeats South Alabama 69-66. Georgia State 14-4. South Alabama 9-9. UAB defeats UTEP 76-63. UTEP drops to 6-10, and UAB improves to 11-7. Indiana Purdue defeats Green Bay 76-60. Indiana Purdue improves to 11-8. Green Bay drops to 9-10. Southern Utah defeats Portland State 83-69. Southern Utah 8-7. Portland State 6-10. Sacramento State defeats Northern Arizona 66-64. Sacramento State 7-7. Northern Arizona 4-12. Jacksonville State defeats Belmont 91-80 in overtime. Jacksonville State 13-5, Belmont's 12-4. Number 5, Gonzaga defeats Loyola Marymount 73-55. Gonzaga is 17-2, Loyola Marymount is 13-5. Oregon upsets Arizona 59-54, an impressive win for Dana Altman's team. They are 11-6, and Arizona is 13-5. Weber State defeats Idaho State 76-59. Weber State 11-6, Idaho State 7-8. Utah Valley defeats Texas Rio Grande 82-61. Utah Valley 13-6, Rio Grande 9-11. Grand Canyon defeats Chicago State 80-46. Grand Canyon 11-7, Chicago State is 3-15. San Francisco defeats Pacific 53-52. San Francisco 15-3, Pacific 11-9. Radford defeats Gardner-Webb 75-58. Radford goes to 12-6, and Gardner-Webb, I should say, drops to 11-7. Impressive win for Radford. Austin Peay defeats SIU Edwardsville 79-71. Austin Peay 13-5. Edwardsville's 5-12. Washington defeats Stanford 80-64. Huskies go to 13-4. Stanford drops to 8-9. CSU Bakersfield defeats UMKC 74-73. Bakersfield 12-6. UMKC 7-11. Arizona State defeats Oregon State 70-67. Arizona State 12-5. Oregon State 11-5. That was a big win for Bobby Hurley. Hawaii defeats Cal State Northridge 84-79. Hawaii 11-5. Northridge 8-11. Santa Barbara defeats Davis 69-58. Santa Barbara goes to 14-3, and Davis drops to 4-13. Washington State defeats Cal 82-59. Impressive win for the Cougars. They are 8-9. Cal is 5-12. New Mexico State defeats Seattle 87-60. New Mexico State 14-4. Seattle 12-7. Cal State Fullerton defeats UC Riverside 69-61. Fullerton 5-12, and Riverside is 6-13. San Diego defeats Portland 76-55. San Diego 13-6. Portland 7-12. BYU defeats Pepperdine 87-76. BYU 12-8. Pepperdine 9-10. St. Mary's defeats Santa Clara 75-55. St. Mary's 12-7. Santa Clara's 10-9. Smaller slate tonight because it's a Friday night, but there's a couple big games, notably in the Big Ten and the Big East. Number 19, Maryland at Ohio State at 6:30 on Fox Sports 1. Ohio State's a 3.5-point favorite. I don't like how the trajectory of this Buckeye season is going. The Terps are a team on the rise. Give me Maryland against the spread. They're getting 3.5. I don't know if they'll win the game outright, but I do like the fact that they're getting that hook with the 3.5. So I'm going to say Ohio State wins a super close one over the Terps. And number 16, Buffalo hosts Eastern Michigan, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. Buffalo is going to win, and they're going to cover the 15.5. Marist at Iona in the MAAC tonight. And also, you have Northwestern at Rutgers, a complete trap game for Northwestern. Guess what? I think Rutgers is going to win. Just a gut feeling I have. Friday night home game in New Jersey. Give me Rutgers as a 1.5 underdog to upset Northwestern. 7 o'clock on ESPN2, St. Joseph's at St. Louis. Give me St. Louis to win and cover. St. Joe's has not played well in A-10 play. Ohio at Toledo. 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Toledo is favored by 8.5. I think they win and cover. They're one of the sneaky good teams in the MAC. And last but not least, in the Big East, you have Xavier at number 22, Villanova, 8:30, Fox Sports 1. I think Villanova is going to win, and they're going to cover the 9.5 against a Xavier team that is down this season. NBA. Small slate last night and yesterday afternoon. The London game, the Wizards defeat the Knicks 101-100 on a game-winning goaltending. Wizards go to 19-26. Knicks drop to 10-34. Bradley Beal, 26 points and 9 boards. Thomas Satoransky had 14. Thomas Bryant, the center, had 10. Trevor Reese had 12 points, 7 assists, 7 boards. Otto Porter Jr. had 20 off the bench with 11 boards. Sam Decker had 10 off the bench. Emmanuel Mudiay had 25 with 7 boards. Noah Vonleh had 13 with 10 boards. Luke Cornett had 16 points. And off the bench, Alonzo Trier and Damian Dotson each had 13. The Hornets defeat the Kings 114-95. The Hornets go to 21-23. Sacramento drops to 23-22. Kemba Walker, 23 points. They go with 5 assists. Jeremy Lamb had 14. Marvin Williams had 10. Off the bench, Miles Bridges and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist each had 15. Willie Hernan-Gomez had 11 with 16 boards. Tony Parker had 14. And Sacramento, meanwhile, Buddy Hield had 25. De'Aaron Fox had 10 with 8 assists. Off the bench, Marvin Bagley had 15 with 8 boards. And with 17 off the bench, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who I think should be starting. The 76ers defeat the Pacers 120-96. Philadelphia's 30-16. Indiana's 29-15. Jimmy Butler had 27. Joel Embiid had 22 with 13 boards. Ben Simmons had 11 with 8 assists and 8 boards. J.J. Redick had 20, including 6 3-pointers. Wilson Chandler had 10. Off the bench, Mike Muscala had 11. Thaddeus Young had 27 with 3 3-pointers. Victor Oladipo had 15 with 7 assists. Off the bench, Tyreek Evans had 13. And that was a disappointing loss for Indiana on national TV. The Raptors defeat the Suns 111-109. So the Raptors survive against a lowly Suns team. They're 34-13. Phoenix drops to 11-35. Serge Ibaka had 22 with 6 boards. Pascal Siakam had 10 with 12 boards and 5 assists. Kyle Lowry had 16 with 9 boards and 8 assists. Fred VanVleet had 15. Off the bench, CJ Miles had 13 and DeLon Wright had 10. Meanwhile, for Phoenix, Devin Booker had 30 with 8 assists. DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges each had 15. TJ Warren had 11. And off the bench, Kelly Oubre Jr. had 18. The Nuggets defeat the Bulls 135-105. Denver improves to 30-14. Chicago drops to 10-35. Jamal Murray, 25 points. Nikola Jokic, 18 points, 11 assists, and 8 boards. Torrey Craig had 13. Paul Millsap had 14. Malik Beasley had 13. Off the bench, Trey Lyles had 12. And Gary Harris had 14. I think it's weird that Gary Harris is coming off the bench. He should be starting. Lauri Markkanen had 27 with 10 boards, including 5 3-pointers. Bobby Portis had 10 with 13 boards. Chandler Hutchinson had 12. Jabari Parker had 15 off the bench. Robin Lopez had 17 off the bench. The Lakers upset the Thunder 138-128 in overtime. A phenomenal win for Luke Walton and the Lakers without LeBron James. They are 25-21. Oklahoma City is 26-18. Kyle Kuzma had 32 points, including 7 3-pointers. Lonzo Ball, 18 points, 10 assists, and 6 boards. Contavious Caldwell-Pope had 13, including 3 3-pointers. Ivica Zubac had 27 with 12 boards, and Josh Hart had 12 with 10 boards off the bench. Russell Westbrook, 26 points, 13 assists, and 9 boards. Steven Adams had 17 with 15 boards. Jeremy Grant had 14. Paul George had 27 points, 8 assists, and 7 boards. Terrence Ferguson had 21, and their bench didn't do anything, which hurt them in this game. Tonight you have, at 7 o'clock, the Grizzlies at the Celtics. Trap game for Boston, potentially after that big win over Toronto. I should say a letdown game. Trap games are usually on the road. I'd be worried about them if they were on the road. Heat at the Pistons. That's a big one for both teams. Nets at the Magic. Brooklyn really needs this one if they want to prove that they're for real in the East. Spurs at the Timberwolves on ESPN. The Timberwolves are a 1.5-point favorite. I think the wrong team is favored in this game. The better team is coached by Greg Popovich, and that is the San Antonio Spurs. The best player playing in this game is Karl Anthony Towns on Minnesota. But LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan are going to have big performances on national TV. Popovich is going to get him up for this. Give me San Antonio as a road underdog to win outright in the Twin Cities. The Cavaliers at the Jazz. 10:30 ESPN, the Warriors at the Clippers. DeMarcus Cousins returns. I really love the Warriors in this spot. They own the Clippers, with that exception being in which the Clippers beat him in overtime when Draymond Green had that falling out with Kevin Durant. I think the Warriors have moved on from that. DeMarcus Cousins is back tonight. I think they're going to come out with a vengeance, and they're going to put a number on the Clippers. So give me Golden State to cover the 7. And then you have the Pelicans at the Trailblazers. NHL, there was a couple games last night. We had 7. The Rangers defeat the Blackhawks 4-3 as the Rangers improve to 20-20-7, and Chicago drops to 16-24-9. Number 1 star of the game with the goal and assist, Chris Kreider. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Mats Zuccarello. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Mika Zibanejad. The Bruins defeat the Blues 5-2. Boston goes to 27-16-5. St. Louis drops to 20-21-5. Number 1 star of the game with 3 assists, David Krejci. The number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Chris Wagner. And the number 3 star of the game with an assist, Zdeno Chara. The Islanders defeat the Devils 4-1 as the Islanders improved to 27-15-4. Devils dropped to 18-22-7. The Islanders are, I believe, 13-3 in their last 16 games. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Anders Lee. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Michael Docali. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Jordan Eberle. The Maple Leafs defeat the Lightning by a score of 4-2. Big win for the Maple Leafs. They are 29-15-2. Tampa drops to 36-10-2. Number 1 star of the game with 36 saves on 38 shots, Frederik Andersen. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and assist, Braden Point. Number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Patrick Marleau. The Jets defeat the Predators 5-1. A great win for the Winnipeg Jets on the road. They're 31-14-2. Nashville is 28-17-4. Number 1 star of the game with 37 saves on 38 shots, Connor Hellebuck. The number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Brendan Lemieux. And the number 3 star of the game with 2 assists, Joe Morrow. The Ducks defeat the Wild 3-0 as Anaheim defeats their former coach and Bruce Boudreau. They are 20-19-9. They snapped their 12-game losing streak, and Minnesota drops to 23-21-3. Number 1 star of the game with 37 saves on 37 shots, John Gibson. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Adam Henrique. Number 3 star of the game, didn't have a point but just played a good game, Zach Parise. The Kings defeat the Stars 2-1 as Los Angeles improves to 19-25-4. Dallas drops to 23-21-4. Number 1 star of the game with 29 saves on 30 shots, Jack Campbell. Number 2 star of the game with assist, Drew Doughty. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Asa Lindell. Tonight, slate's a little smaller. You have the Maple Leafs at the Panthers, the Canadiens at the Blue Jackets, 7:30, the Islanders at the Capitals, the Senators at the Hurricanes, 9 o'clock, the Red Wings at the Flames, the Penguins at the Coyotes, and 10 o'clock, the Sabres at the Canucks. So 7-game slate again. So I was a little off there. We'll start with the women's side of the Australian Open as day 1 of round 3 concluded. Ashley Barty defeated Maria Sakkari. Amanda Anisimova upsets number 11 seeded Arina Sabalenka. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova knocks off Alexandra Sasnovich. And a big upset, number 30 seeded Maria Sharapova upset 3 seeded Caroline Wozniacki. I did say that I thought Sharapova had a chance in this matchup, and I proved to be right as she won the match outright. 5 seeded Solane Stevens defeated 31 seeded Petra Marchik. 8 seeded Petra Kvitova defeats Belinda Bencic. Danielle Rose Collins upsets 19 seeded Caroline Garcia. And Angelique Kerber, your 2 seed, defeats Kimberly Burrell. Tonight's matchups that conclude round 3. You have 4 seeded Naomi Osaka against 28 seeded Hishi Sui. Give me Osaka there. Zhang Suhei against 6 seeded Alina Sivatina. Give me Sivatina there. 21 seeded Wang Qiang against 13 seeded Anastasia Sevastova. Give me Sevastova. Dana Yastremka against 16 seeded Serena Williams. Give me Serena. And 12 seeded Elise Mertens against 17 seeded Madison Keys. Give me Madison Keys. It's going to be a slim upset there. 1 seeded Simona Halep against Venus Williams. I think Venus has a chance, but I just can't bet against Simona Halep at this point. Tamaya Baskinski against 18-seeded Gabrine Muguruza. Give me Muguruza there. 27-seeded Camila Giorgi against Carolina Pliskova. She's your 7th-seed, and give me Pliskova there. On to the men's side of things we go. The results there were pretty interesting. 14-seeded Stefano Tsitsipas defeated 19-seeded Nicolas Basilashvili. Tomas Berdych upsets 18-seeded Diego Schwartzman. 3-seeded Roger Federer defeats Taylor Fritz. And then your overnights, Francis Tiafoe defeats Andreas Seppi. 20-seeded Grigor Dimitrov defeats Thomas Fabiano. 22-seeded Roberto Bautista Agut defeated 10-seeded Karen Khachanov. That's a pretty good upset there. 2-seeded Rafael Nadal defeats 27-seeded Alex de Minaur. 6-seeded Marine Klitsch defeats 26-seeded Fernando Vizcardo. And tonight concludes round 3. You have Joao Sousa against 8-seeded Kei Nishioka. I can't bet against Kei Nishioka at this point, so give me Nishioka there. 21-seeded David Goffin against 15-seeded Daniil Medvedev. Give me David Goffin for the upset. I have a feeling about that one. 1-seeded Novak Djokovic against 25-seeded Denis Shapovalov. Just not betting against Djokovic at this point. 12-seeded Fabio Fognini against 23-seeded Pablo Carreño Busta. Something tells me about Carreño Busta here. Give me Carreño Busta for the upset here. Pierre Hughes Herbert against 16-seeded Milos Raonic. Give me Raonic here to move on, although I think Herbert has a chance. And then your overnight, you have 11-seeded Borna Koric against Filip Krajinovic. Give me Koric there. 4-seeded Alexander Zverev against Alex Bulk. Give me Zverev. And 28-seeded Lucas Piole against Alexei Popyrin. Give me Piole there. And that is your men's side of things. Now I'm going to do my MLB power rankings. As of right now, I'm going to try to be quick here. I'm going to go from 30 to 1. 30 is the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to be the worst team in the league again this upcoming season, although they have a new manager and some players, and I think they're going to try out a lot of youngsters that'll give them some youth and some hope. Same goes for these next 2 teams, 29, the Kansas City Royals, and 28, the Miami Marlins. I think the Marlins are the furthest ahead in their rebuild other than the other 2 teams because the Marlins at least have JT Realmuto still on their roster if they plan to keep him, but if they trade him, then their spot goes down unless they get something that I think can significantly change the outlook of their franchise, perhaps, in terms of prospects. 27 is the Detroit Tigers. I think they are further ahead in their rebuild than people think. They have a lot of pitching coming up through their system. 26 is the Texas Rangers. They have a good offensive young core, but they have nada in terms of pitching. 25 is the Toronto Blue Jays. They have a lot of hope provided by their prospects, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. 24 is the San Francisco Giants. They're going to be a team that a lot of people think are going to be bad, which will result in a big sell-off. Madison Bumgarner in a contract year. He could be moved. 23 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're a team that is heading for a rebuild. Zach Greinke, I think, still has to be traded. 22 is the San Diego Padres. I think them and number 21 on this list, the Chicago White Sox, are two teams that have great chances of surprising some folks this season with some pretty good additions to their ball clubs. 20 is the Cincinnati Reds. That's another team I think is going to improve. They're out of the bottom 10 thanks to the additions of Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp and rotation upgrades led by Alex Wood. 19 is the Los Angeles Angels. They have Mike Trout on the roster, but the rest of it is not that great, although Shohei Ohtani is great, but he is recovering from Tommy John surgery. 18 is the Seattle Mariners. They still have some pieces on that roster. Yeah, they're not going to be a good team, but as far as I'm concerned, Mitch Haniger's still on that team, and so is Kyle Seager. They're not bad players. Oh, and they have Jay Bruce, too, who I think they could flip eventually. Felix Hernandez is a guy past his prime. And they have some other okay pitchers on their team, like Mike Leake, who they can eventually flip. 17 is the Minnesota Twins. Vegas had their over-under at 83. I think that was ludicrously high. They don't have an ace pitcher on their roster, although they think Jose Barrios can become that. They're young studs that were, I should say, they're young projected studs, not really their studs, but Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano really haven't panned out yet. I think that they could very well both be busts by the time next year. I should say officially busts by this time next year. 16 is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think this team's being underestimated a little bit because of the flashiness of the best three teams in the NL Central and with some of the moves the Cincinnati Reds made. But don't forget, this team went out and traded for Chris Archer last year. Yeah, he hasn't worked out yet, but you never know. If can stay healthy and pitch to his capability, he could be a nice co-ace to go with Jamison Taillon in that rotation. And then their offense is okay. Francisco Cervelli's still on the team. Starling Marte's still around. Josh Bell could be a breakout player. Gregory Polanco has shown some capabilities in the past. 15 is the Oakland Athletics. This team made the wild card game a year ago, but I think they're going to take a step back. They have failed to improve their rotation. Their ace, Sean Manaea, is recovering from Tommy John surgery. Although I do like their offense, and I think their offense will score some runs this year. 14 is the Philadelphia Phillies. I do think they're going to be an improved team regardless of whether they sign Bryce Harper and Manny Machado or one of them or not. Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura are two players that will help them. Jorge Alfaro might have a breakout year. Aaron Nola is an ace. Jake Arrieta is a solid middle rotation guy for them. 13 is the Colorado Rockies. They're a team that I think is being underestimated by folks in the media. Their over-under was like at 82. No way they're a worse team than the Minnesota Twins. Just no way. I think their starting pitching has progressed the past couple years when they were in the playoffs. Kyle Freeland and German Marquez are two pitchers that have shown above average capabilities. Nolan Arenado is going to be in a contract year. So I think the Rockies are really going to go for it this year. 12 is the Tampa Bay Rays. This team probably should have made the playoffs last year if it weren't for, I believe they were like 9-24 or something pathetic like that. And then they end up winning near 90 games, or it might have actually been 90 on the market. But I like this Rays team. Kevin Cash is a good manager. Charlie Morton's a great addition to their team to be their number 2 starter behind Blake Snell. They have another set of guys that they can trot out in that rotation, a lot of young pieces that have upside like Jose De Leon, Brent Honeywell coming off of Tommy John surgery. I expect him to come up and contribute. So this team is going to be vastly improved from last year. And this team won 90 games a year ago. Number 11 is the New York Mets. Yes, the New York Mets. I like the moves this team has made to make their team better. The Jed Lowry addition will prove to be a good one. We'll see what Robinson Cano has left in the tank. Despite the PED suspension last year, once he came back, he hit above 300. So that's a pretty good sample size if you're the Mets. Edwin Diaz, I think, will be the most significant addition to this team. They have a proven closer who is all-star caliber. Yeah, they gave up a lot, but I applaud the Mets for going out and making their team better. We'll see what they do with Todd Frazier. Rumor has it that he's on the trade block. Peter Alonso is going to come up and contribute at first base. And they made some outfield additions. Keon Broxton, I think, will help them if Juan Lagares doesn't stay healthy. And obviously Brandon Nimmo and Michael Conforto are guys that they would like to see make jumps, as well as young shortstop Ahmed Rosario. Number 10 is the Milwaukee Brewers. I think Vegas is underselling this team, as their over-under was the same as Minnesota's, which was 83. This team has the reigning NL MVP on it in Christian Yelich, a guy coming off a breakout year in Jesus Aguilar. Eric Thames is on this team. They have a great bullpen. Ryan Braun, somebody that's past his prime, but he can help them. They're relying on Orlando Arcia to make a jump. He showed some flashes in the playoffs last year. And they have a lot of good players on this team as well. Don't forget about Lorenzo Cain, who's a defensive wizard in center field. Their rotation still needs to be upgraded. I think they'll be in play for Madison Bumgarner. And they'll be in play for other guys that hit the trade market eventually. Number 9 is the Washington Nationals. This team has significantly improved from a year ago with the addition of Patrick Corbin, and Victor Robles will be on this team most of the year, and he will provide a lot of things for them, whether it's speed, offense, defense in the outfield. He'll be an exciting player to watch, and regardless of what happens with Bryce Harper, I do think this team is going to be pretty good. Number 8 is the Atlanta Braves. There was debate on the MLB Network who's the favorite in the NL East. I still think it's the Braves. They won this division last year. Ronald Acuna Jr. is only going to get better. Freddie Freeman, I think, is the most underrated player in all baseball. He never gets talked about among the top players in the game, but that guy has just been productive year in and year out. They have a lot of young guys in their rotation I think have potential to improve, like Touki Toussaint. And a couple of their prospects they have, like Kyle Wright, can be called up this year. And they have Covey Allard. They have a lot of trade assets, too. They're another team that could be in the Bumgarner sweepstakes. The additions of Josh Donaldson and Brian McCann will help them in the clubhouse and on the field. And they're obviously upgrades at those positions as well. I really think McCann's going to be rejuvenated coming back home to Atlanta. 7 is the St. Louis Cardinals. They're a team that significantly improved themselves this offseason with the trading for Paul Goldschmidt. They did send a couple guys to Arizona in the deal that could have helped them in the future. But I have to give John Mozeliak credit for going for it right now when you have a window to win. They have a good young pitching staff. Adam Wainwright's now their number 5 starter. That's just crazy, the drop-off of him, but good on them. That guys like Jack Flaherty, Michael Wacha. We'll see what happens with Carlos Martinez. Alex Reyes, I think, is their big wild card. If he's healthy and produces for them this year, whether it's out of the bullpen or in their rotation, I think that could put them on the same level as the Cubs and the Dodgers in the National League. Number 6 is the Cleveland Indians. Debated whether I should have put them here or 7 or 5. But as far as I'm concerned, Corey Kluber and Trevor Bauer are still on this team. They made a couple shrewd moves that I liked, such as trading for Jake Bauers. I think he's going to be one of the breakout players in baseball this year. Number 5 was the Chicago Cubs. They still have a good rotation led by Jon Lester and Kyle Hendricks. You also have a possible Yu Darvish rejuvenation factor in there as well. I'm interested to see what this team does, and obviously Cole Hamels is there. And then I do think Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo have better years than a year ago, which is why I put the Cubs as the favorites in the NL Central. It's lost that those guys had bad years last year, meaning bad by their standards. And then Javier Baez, I think that was his coming out party more than just one career year. Number 4 is the Houston Astros. I'm worried about the Astros. They have 2 above-average starting pitchers healthy at the moment in Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander. And the rest of their projected rotation is Colin McHugh, Brad Peacock, and Josh James. McHugh and Peacock are not good. And then Josh James showed flashes as a rookie, and I do think he'll help them. But they need to make additions to their rotation for me to call them in the category with the 2 American League East teams. And 3, I'm going to say the Red Sox. They have failed to address their bullpen. I think they're weary of overpaying Craig Kimbrell. Although their offense is still going to be great, led by Mookie Betts and JD Martinez. Xander Bogaerts is in a contract year. Their rotation's pretty good with David Price, Chris Sale. Nathan Eovaldi was brought back. What was last year a career year for him. I have questions about him. I have questions about Rick Porcello. And obviously David Price and whether he can replicate his October performance. Number 2, I have the New York Yankees. I think they're a better team than the Red Sox at the moment with their additions of DJ LeMahieu to improve their offense and in their bullpen, the bringing back of Zach Britton and the bringing in Adam Ottavino. They have a much better bullpen than Boston. I think their rotation has more upside than Boston's because if Luis Severino and James Paxton pitch to their capabilities, I'd rather have that than Chris Sale, who's been on the DL more times than not over the last year plus, and David Price, somebody who was rejuvenated in the fall but has failed to beat the Yankees in his career. So I really like New York's rotation. You have a full season of Jay Happ, and you upgrade the rotation with Paxton, and that's obviously better than Sonny Gray, who's going to be traded sooner rather than later, and the combination of Domingo Germán and Jonathan Loáisiga. And number 1's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Despite the tradings of Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp, I still like this team. Cody Bellinger, I think, is going to have a better year than last year. Russell Martin was brought in as a catcher. He's a veteran that can help them. 20 home run potential. You have Justin Turner, who's a hitting machine at third base. Corey Seager's coming back from Tommy John surgery. Alex Verdugo is going to contribute as a rookie after hearing about him for years and how the Dodgers didn't want to trade him in any deals. I still think there's additions to be made on this roster, whether that's signing Bryce Harper or trading for somebody, maybe Corey Kluber. I don't think they'd trade with the Giants for Bumgarner, so they're an X in terms of Bumgarner's suitors. But right now, I'd peg the Dodgers as the favorites to win the World Series. They're in a bad division with a lot of rebuilding teams. The Rockies are their only threat to make it a race with them. Meanwhile, the Yankees have not only the Red Sox in their division, who just won the World Series, but the up-and-coming Tampa Bay Rays in their division that they're going to have to battle with all 2019. And the Rays and the Red Sox are obviously better teams than the Rockies. So that's why I have the Dodgers over New York right now. Or I should say the Dodgers over New York and Boston as of right now. Before I go, Scott Linehan was let go by the Dallas Cowboys. Today, it was revealed after Jason Garrett saying on Saturday that Linehan was returning. I guess they changed their minds. They, as in Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones. Linehan was not good at his job. And I'm interested to see who they bring in to help Dak Prescott in that offense going forward. Last but not least, I'm going to do my NFL picks for the championship round. And after that, I'm going to do my best bet. We'll start with the NFC Championship game. The Los Angeles Rams are at the New Orleans Saints, 3 o'clock on Fox. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call, as well as Chris Myers. These two teams met earlier in the season in the same venue in a high-scoring affair in which the Saints won. The Rams are coming off an impressive divisional round home win over the Dallas Cowboys, led by their rushing attack duo of Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson. The Saints are coming off a divisional round home win over the Philadelphia Eagles, in which not only they trailed 14-0 early in, but could have lost the game later on if Alshon Jeffrey didn't let the ball slip from his hands that led to the game-sealing interception by Marshawn Lattimore. The Saints offense showed signs of its normal self in the second half of last weekend's game, and they suffered a big injury with the loss of defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, so expect the Rams running backs to have success again. The Rams defense as a whole is healthy with Aqib Talib back in that secondary. Meanwhile, Michael Thomas is a beast and seems to catch everything that comes his way, so Talib faces a big challenge with Thomas. That said, Drew Brees and Sean Payton are undefeated at the Superdome in playoff games, and I do expect the Saints to find a way to win the game despite the Rankins injury. 27-23 Saints. AFC. 2-seeded New England Patriots against the 1-seeded Kansas City Chiefs. 6:30 on CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson on the call. These two teams also met in the regular season, and it was a classic of a game in which the Patriots won in their home building. The Patriots are coming off an impressive divisional round home win over the Los Angeles Chargers, in which the final score didn't replicate how dominant the Pats were. The Chiefs are coming off an impressive divisional round home win of their own too, except over the Indianapolis Colts. The Patriots, for the first time in a long time, looked like the dominant team that many expected them to be this season against a quality playoff opponent. But we shall see how this will translate against the MVP favorite in Patrick Mahomes and their defense has to face. Meaning that Patriots defense. The Chiefs defense surprisingly played well against an offense in the Colts that was playing well heading into that game. My fear is that the Colts' poor offensive showing has more to do with their inexperience in the cold weather rather than the Chiefs' defense playing lights out. That said, I do expect the shootout, and I like the Chiefs led by Mahomes and that high-powered offense in their home building, despite Andy Reid's reputation as a can't-win-the-big-game coach. Kansas City 34, New England 27. Best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. Celtics, Jazz, Warriors, college basketball, Buffalo, Villanova, NHL, the Hurricanes and the Flames, and in men's tennis, Kei Nishioka, Novak Djokovic, Borna Coric, Alexander Zverev, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal. Plus 866, wagering $1 to win $8.67 with a payout of $9.67. And that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping all the NBA, NHL, college basketball, tennis. Go over any baseball moves that happen. And I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.